we get settled
Sure.
smog just kind of settles in and infects our apartment buildings.
Oh,
Totally. Last week I was choking on some smoke from the wildfires here in San Diego, just out on a couple of walks. I noticed that like I was smelling a lot of smoke and tasting it.
So
You know,
unusual inside. San Diego is supposed to have perfect oceans, perfect beaches, perfect air, and perfect adjunct professors from Mesa College.
instead, San Diego's just lit.
Wait a minute. I want to know more about this vegetable, this magical vegetable that'll help me lose 20 pounds.
Oh, okay, good. Glad someone asked about that. It's called jicama, and you just eat that only, nothing else.
You know, I had some.
do you dip it
Yeah.
in anything?
You can put it in dipama, which is a sauce made out of jicama. So,
Are you eating strictly jicama?
no, I'm on a cheeseburger and alcohol diet, and so it's I gained lost too much weight on the jicama diet and had to do something about it. So I decided that during COVID time, I would change my diet to something that's twice the daily calories per meal. And doing that,
Who's bringing that sick ass beat?
is there a beat coming? Anyway, welcome. I promised lots of things. I delivered the first one. Jicama, folks. Get that that wonderful vegetable. It'll deliver. You'll be hungry all day long, but you'll be fed.
There's a beat every time you talk. Every time you say a syllable.
Oh,
Bust me a beat.
interesting. That's what's going on. Okay. How about now?
Just getting ready to start to spit too, Professor Pullen.
I thought this was all part of the rap.
I was gonna flow.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. No, what happened is I had a bunch of issues with internal audio writing. Because as Trevor will know, there are certain times when if you mess with internal wiring of software cables, sometimes it derails your system. That happened. So we'll have to see what happens so far as some audio stuff out of my voice. And I was routing in sound from Pro Tools using this thing called Soundflower. And I was routing that in from Soundflower out of Pro Tools into what I thought was Zoom. And it was showing up in my other program and not in Zoom. Apparently, it was actually coming through, but only when I speak. So when my microphone turns on, it allows the beat to come through. I'm not quite sure why.
That's pretty profound.
Teach me how to do that, because then I can do the jicama rap.
You know, I didn't even hear it on my side. It wasn't coming through to me, only to you guys. So, and I think that's because, oh, that's why, huh? Is that why? Let's see.
That would be a great app for like rappers. Like the second you just start to rap, the beat starts to drop.
Let's see something. I'm gonna try something else here. Let's see. First of all, I'll go to Pro Tools. Okay, rewind this thing. Let's see how. Okay, I see the beat coming through. You hear anything, or am I going to talk?
Could you try it again?
Let's see. Let's try something else here.
It's when you talk.
Yeah, it's working.
You hear it now?
I just heard.
Only when I talk.
Now it's happening when you not talk.
You can slightly hear it whenever
Not
you
talk. Wild. And how about now? Nothing, right?
Nope.
Okay, well, it's not working correctly, but it works related to my speaking as if it's like connected to some gate. Interesting. I'm wondering if it's because I was taking it previously with Audio Hijack and then routing it there. I'm not going to find out today, though, folks. I'm not going to find out today. So you can hear me, and that's fine. That's all I need for the moment. I'm going to also...
You know what I
Great.
found out? I just found out that Michael Jackson did the music for Sonic 3. I was like, whoa.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, wow, did not know that. And now I know. And knowing's
Yeah.
half the battle, folks. Speaking of half the battle, we have quite a battle ahead of ourselves today. Let's look at some of the things that we're battling. Not just villains and mad villains, but we're battling things such as assignments and quizzical things, and of course, the war against air and how we're going to deal with that using sound. So we're going to take a look at a couple of those things. So first of all, as my mom would always say, and it drove me nuts, first things first. Quote your parents, folks, later on, because I don't know, just because of the wonderful things they does. I'm gonna jump over here to our wonderful home in Canvas. Go to the modules. And look, ooh, shiny new stuff. Yay. So we have a couple things here. One is that either during the week, few weeks after, whatever else, at some point, I want us to all have, I'll be forced into regurgitating some of the information that I spout out in class. Why is that? Because I'm a spiteful, horrible person. And so I have this one from our connections and stuff we did, and this one from our DAWs stuff. You really need to know your way around the basic idea of a bunch of different things in DAWs and be able to talk fluently with other people about that. So this is a big fat video quiz. Notice I said put 100 points here because it's long. It's like a half an hour long. Do you have to do that? Of course not. You can just, skip to the questions. Let me know if you hear it. Do you hear this at all?
The piano to the left side of it is called a piano roll wheel. But you can also click on this little icon here and see things as notation.
You hearing me speak about notation?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go to this thing. You
Now
can
let's
just
check out the mix view.
I check out the mixed view with
So
you,
we can see the mix view tools in the edit window.
and I go to various things in this questions, right? 36 questions. Ultimately, if you just go through it and skip to the questions and answer true or false or whatever else, you can do that. Or you can watch it.
Let's look at some of the different areas
Why-
of the mix view.
Might you want to watch it if you're having some downtime or something? One, since you're now using DAWs or a DAW, since you're now using Pro Tools, it's going to be more of your interest to know what's going on in it better. And though you already have the PowerPoint there, I tried to add at least some value to it. So it's not exactly just the things in there. I go deeper into explaining some things and talking about areas in it, right? I think it's like, 28, 29 minutes, like for the whole thing. So it's super long by today's standards, but intent really isn't to keep attention necessarily, just to try to thoroughly go through it and then explain it and be a tour guide for you. So you don't have to necessarily just read it. You can kind of just sit there at the end of your day in a dull haze and watch it while you smoke blunts. See from, okay. Oh, okay. So I haven't done attendance and stuff yet. But I will do that later on towards the end of class today. Because I do want to see if you're all here and give you credit for being. Anyway, so check that out. It shouldn't be, most of my stuff, honestly, folks, it's not going to be hard, or at least I don't think it's going to be. That's not the point. Just want you to know the vocabulary and get really used to things, because, the more used to Pro Tools you are, or whatever DAW you are, too close here. Oops, even closer. Better. The more you know your DAW, the easier it's going to be to make music, right? So you want to get as much as you can beyond all the stuff there. So when does this stuff due? The best way to see when things are due is just really in general to open up the calendar, or just go to the modules themselves where things are, and you'll see essentially, well, I have this for two different things, but you'll see if there's a meetings here or assignments, and I see here on Wednesday, connections and level quiz. And then if I go further down, I see video quiz DAWs due on Sunday. Okay, so two things you have due then. You have something where have to answer some questions about connections and that type of stuff, connections and IO and different levels and stuff that we've been looking at this past week, last week rather. And then you have one that's about the DAWs, and that'll be due on Sunday. Anyway, you can check on your calendar and see that type of stuff too. How many times can you take these things, do you think?
As many times as you want.
It's Tim's class. It's unlimited, folks. You can take it over and over and over until the due date.
Tim, I want to appreciate you for keeping your lecture below supersonic sound because I'm over 40 now and I have a hard time hearing things.
Hey, no problem. As people may know, in my previous lectures, I would lecture at 22 to 25,000 hertz. And if that didn't happen, I would take my voice and pitch shift it high enough so only dogs could hear it. But then I got in trouble with the White House because they were so used to dog whistles that no one could pay attention. And so anyway, I've been changing that now so that I can speak to normal humans and putting my voice under 20,000 cycles per second. As you may see from the lecture later today, that proves to be an important point for communication. Although if you do want to save your marriage or relationship, you can speak above 20,000 hertz the entire time, and your significant other will appreciate you much more. Okay, so now you have words of wisdom to live by. So those are the things to do today. Let's look at what happened with the quiz thing. The quiz, I used some brand new quizzes-ish, newish quizzes that are like in some beta form. I had never used them before because I was kind of worried, but they offer some new possibilities. So I can give you like cooler things potentially. The quiz is kind of short for this 1 to 2 Wednesday, but let's take a look at that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my own dashboard, click on my class hole, and move on down the road. Let's go to that. See, DAWs video quiz. No, connections quiz. Okay, so unlike the video quizzes, this is just like a straight up quiz. Oh, I'm gonna have to hit this preview button because I'm teaching it, so it won't show it to me like you. Okay, and it says, okay, answer the questions about audio connections and levels. Can you plug a guitar into a line level input and make a recording? Is that gonna work?
Yes, but it won't work very well.
Oh, yes. It will work, but not well, right? What's going to happen if you plug, oh, Thad, you've got the turtle behind you, good. Yeah, I've always thought Mitch McConnell was the closest thing to a turtle I've ever seen in my life. I like turtles though, so it's confusing for me to see that. So when you plug, you plug a guitar, I've been laughing this whole time. When you plug a guitar into, when plugging the guitar into a line level input, what's going to happen? It's going to record it. But does anyone know why it's going to have problems?
Line level is too low, right? Instrument level is a little bit higher. So it's going to be like quiet and it's not going to capture like the full scope of the EQ, like treble and all that.
Okay, great. Several good points. So a few of them need to be slightly corrected, but yes. The most important thing is, first of all, we have multiple different levels of stuff coming out of wires, right? Has anyone ever had to figure out that there's like different amounts of electricity you need for like a washing machine versus like a typical outlet? No? I have, but from other people's houses, okay? Because my apartment has nothing like that, but I don't have a washing machine here. But you might have someone's to come out 240 volts versus 120. Like have twice the voltage. Or they have, more importantly, they have what's called amps coming out and stuff like that. But the main thing is, it's like you have different amounts of electricity that could come out of something. If you have a massive device, you're charging your car, you have electric car. My mouth wants the guitar. If you have like a big device that requires a ton of electricity, you may need to have more of it come out than a typical socket. Well, when we're dealing with our audio devices, some audio devices have different amounts of electricity that come out of them, different amount of voltages, okay, and different amount of the current called amperes. And so if we have the wrong amount come in, if we have less than we need, we barely get any registering on our faders when we're trying to record and do stuff. And so we have to be aware of that happening. Okay, so what are those levels? The lowest level we have coming out is microphone. Microphones put out very, very, very little. It's also true that different microphones put out different amounts of it, right? And if you have condenser microphones that get their phantom power going into them, many times you'll see that there's a larger amount of output coming from them than you'll see for the dynamic microphone. Again, these things vary, but all these microphones in general are going to be way less. So let's think microphone, very little voltage coming out. Next up is instrument level. Instrument level is more than a microphone, but less than line level. Even more annoyingly, potentially, instrument level happens to be varying. It's not always the same depending on what instrument you have. But they'll give ratings for it. You know, they'll say minus 20 dBu or something like that. Okay, so there's different ratings that these things are given. We don't really care that much about them at the moment. What we just care about is if you're plugging in an instrument, it's less level than line. So that is one thing that correctly, who was that said that? Answered that question 10 years ago?
That was me. I thought line and instrument level were the other way around. That's why.
Yeah, okay. And so we have down below here, we have microphone, then we have instrument level, and then we have line level. Those are really the main three things you need to think about. Is it a guitar or bass? If so, it's instrument level. Why? Because there are no other instruments, apparently. Strangely, though, keyboards, right? Electronic keyboards are not instrument level, usually. They're usually line level. Try to think of it this way. What do you always have as far as the instruments playing in American bands, especially older ones? Just guitars and basses, right? You may have keyboards, but maybe not. So when people think instrument level, think just guitars and basses, all right? Keyboards can fluctuate, but most of them are basically line level. What other things would be line level? Drum machines, other external audio sound modules, a bunch of pro audio stuff that would be external equipment that has outputs, okay? If it's professional stuff. And that is going to be +4 dBu, right? There's different levels though for line level too. And there's two levels basically. There's one called consumer line level. It'll say -10 next to it, and they'll say professional level +4. Okay, they're actually measured in slightly different ways. Again, it doesn't terribly matter. The main thing is professional line level is the loudest. Consumer line level's not quite as loud. You can still record it. Okay, if you plugged it into your mixer to record your audio interface, say you had an old school CD player, for instance, right? CD player, tape player, if you're keeping some vintage stuff or whatever. If you were to take the output of that and plug it into your audio interface or mixer, that would be what's called consumer line level. So many devices like that, if you had like a TV that you wanted to record, say you had something off of Netflix or something on your TV, or you had some other thing going on in the local news and you wanted to take the sound from your TV and record it into your computer so you could sample it and do stuff with it, that would be consumer level line output, okay? What happens if you get a signal into your audio interface or a mixer and it's not enough? What can you do about it? Anything, or are you screwed? Now I have serious face on here, so maybe you know the answer already. Oh, wiggled my nose. Maybe it's not
Can't
serious.
you
Turn up the
work
gain?
with it? Yeah, turn up the gain maybe.
Yeah, you have to turn up the gain. Turn up the game. Turn up the gain. So you turn up the gain knob. The gain is the thing on the amplifier, okay, that makes it louder. Revs up your amplifier, okay? So you turn that up, and you turn it up until you get a lot of green in your meter. What happens if you get it to like orange and red? Is that a good thing?
No, it means it's like clipping and it's distorting.
Yeah, and especially since we're using digital stuff, or ultimately we're using digital stuff, okay? There's only a certain amount of loudness you can record. If you get any higher than that loudness, this thing called 0 dB full scale, it uses all the digits or numbers that are possible to describe something. And once it gets past that, it just says, I don't know, and just cuts off the top, because that's as loud as it can get. So it cuts off the top, like just like you're snipping it with scissors, and so they call it digital clipping. Sounds bad. Just takes whatever smooth flowing audio you had and just chops that thing off, gives it a haircut it never wanted. Okay. So back to the guitar. The guitar not only is at instrument level or bass, but it also has a very different amount of resistance. Okay, the stuff that we measure in ohms. What's another name for resistance? Impedance. If I impeded someone else's career goals, I came in front of them or stopped them, right? If I impeded the flow of traffic, I would have stopped the flow of traffic. So impede, right, is just another name for stopping things. In fact, I'm wondering right now if it's from like, is it from im for not and pede for like pedestrian, like stop walking? I don't know. Something to look up. But the main thing is that if something acts as an impediment, it acts as something that's a stopping force. Okay, and so when electricity is going from place to place, as we discussed before, there's a certain amount of resistance that happens. Okay, there can be resistance coming out of a device and resistance coming in the device, and these things have to be thought out a little bit for certain instruments and headphones. Most of the time, and some microphones. Most of the time nowadays, we don't have to think about that as much, but we definitely have to think about it for guitars and basses. If you have the impedance mismatched, for instance, if you plug in a guitar or bass into a typical line input, even though you'll get signal in there, not as much as a line, you'll have problematic impedance differences. They're going to make it so that part of the frequencies of the guitars don't come through as uniformly, or you just get blocked out utterly. Okay, turns out that you're going to lose a lot of high end in your guitar, and it's going to sound duller. So it's going to mess up the tone of your guitar. You know, why does my guitar sound so messed up and the tone sucks? Well, maybe part of it is just because of the impedance mismatch. How do you fix that? How do you plug a guitar into, say you're like me and you have a mixer that doesn't have what's called a high Z or high impedance, doesn't have a high Z input, doesn't have one of this instrument, only has line and mic. How do I plug that in?
The DI box?
With a direct injection box, yeah, a DI box. And a DI box will do several things for you. It'll correct the impedance, and it'll also change something to be a balanced input. It'll make it so you can plug it into the typical microphone input of your mixer. Okay? So, good thing to have there. If you have guitar or bass, you should probably have a DI box, even if you have an input on your own audio interface that says instrument, because if you ever go anywhere to play, and they just have a stage box and nothing else, you'll have that DI and you'll be able to plug it in and solve some problems. So handy thing to have. You can pick up a cheap one or expensive one, depending on how much you care about the sound of things, but it'll definitely make a big difference there. So we say, yes, it'll work, but not well. It will be lower in level and be degraded in sound because of impedance mismatch. You should plug it in to an instrument input or use a DI. Which are the most commonly used cables for connecting audio interfaces to computers? How do you connect an audio interface to a computer?
You use a USB Type C mic, Type C cable. Sorry.
Yeah,
I would say,
Type C or what else there? Is
I'm going to say USB 1 because that's the standard cable for plugging in audio interfaces and mixers, if you can plug it into a computer. But USB-C is the newest.
okay, USB-C is the newest. That's that little skinny one that you use probably to plug in your phone. What is FireWire 400? Is that something? So we say USB-C, we can say that's one of them. Okay. What else? How about FireWire 400? Have we heard of that? I probably should have even put this on there. It's more of a blue herring, but okay. Well, 2 or 3 of us know that. It's an old school cable that we used to use on mostly Apple computers, but for video and stuff.
Are those DNY cords?
What's that?
The Fire 400, that's like a DNY cord?
It's a parallel parallel cord where
Yeah, that's right.
USB is a serial cord that's data one thing at a time. So it's like the way the Christmas tree lights used to be plugged in, or if you have one lane on a road, only one lane, that's serial. One car at a time can go. If you have like 4 or 5 lanes, that would be parallel. Multiple cars can go at the same time. That's in the lanes.
Yeah, that's right.
So FireWire did that, and it made it so that it had a more consistent throughput. It's no longer used. They had FireWire 400 and 800. They used to be competitors to USB 1 and 2, respectively. USB 1 is very, very slow and is pretty much no longer used. It has about 12 megabits per second, I think, speed. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Trevor, or others. Then USB 2, I think, had about 560 megabits per second, whereas FireWire had 800. USB 3 has not in the hundreds, but it has 5 gigabits per second. So USB 2, 560 megabits, okay, much smaller. Then USB 3, essentially, just say round it to down to 500. USB 2 to 3, USB 3 is like 6 times faster. 3 gigabits versus 500 megabits. USB-C, it depends. It can be made in different ways. So then USB-C is not always the same. A particular variant of USB-C used by current Apple computers and some other PCs too is called Thunderbolt 3. Instead of USB 3, which is 5 gigabits, this is 40 gigabits. So it's like a huge increase in speed. Again, it's going to vary on what type of connection you actually have in your computer. But in general, you will get probably the highest possible transfers and speeds from USB-C. It can also give energy to things too, so you can run things on power that goes through it on its bus. So there's lots of different things it can do. What do we currently use? Essentially, USB 3 and USB-C. USB 1 is too slow, so is FireWire, and it's outdated. You won't find the things. I had a FireWire audio interface though. I had those before. What are we eventually going to know? We're going to go, well, how much audio are we having going in our cables per second? And how much data is that? To put things in perspective, our mixer at our, Midas mixer at Mesa College can have 16 channels at a time, all simultaneously recording in 24-bit audio, high quality audio, and it has one USB connection to the computer. No problems. So you can record many tracks at the exact same time, all with a single USB cable. So long as you're really USB 2 or above, you're not going to have to worry about these things nowadays because they have a lot of data on them. And audio doesn't require nearly as much as video does. Okay. Isn't this exciting, folks? We're doing a quiz for you. So excites. Look at this one, huh? Matching style? What? We're going to do a matching one now? These questions are just off the hook now. Canvas, what? Okay. This cable is used for guitars, basses, and mono connections. Which one of these is it?
1/4 inch.
See, it's not an XLR.
1/4 inch.
Yeah, I think quarter inch. Okay. This cable can transmit 2 unbalanced channels or 1 balanced channel.
TRS.
Oh, this is going to be, you're going to be slaying and throwing down here. Other folks pay attention. How about this one? Cables most often used for microphones.
XLR.
Kills it. And this TS cable has traditionally been used with consumer audio devices and turntables.
RCA. That's why I use my turntables.
Wow. Do you also have a microphone?
I do. For the turntables?
Yeah, 2 turntables and a microphone.
Yeah, I just use a. Yeah, right. I got you. Two turn things in the microphone.
Heck is a Scientologist.
He is. That's right.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
If you're in LA, that's the thing to be, though. What about you, Thad? Are you made the transition yet?
I think you have to have enough money.
Well, first of all, you have to have a lot of money.
Yeah, you do. You do. John Travolta status, right? Yeah.
I mean, and if you don't have a lot of money, basically you're working a lot to create the levels and buy the videos and all of that stuff, right? And most people don't make it past a certain point because they don't have the money. So
Yep.
Well, I would argue that the Thetans are problematic and that if they just cleared their mind, maybe they wouldn't even have to spend the money, as I have done.
Oh, the Thetans, that's right.
Scientology loves to recruit actors, and they have offered me a number of gigs, and I've turned every single one of them down.
Wow.
I got to say, they really try to recruit actors. So yeah, I've had a lot of run-ins with Scientology, and they always try to get me and book me for stuff, and I always tell them no.
Salute.
Yeah, not too much of a tangential try.
Insult anybody or disrespect anyone. It's a personal decision.
Well,
If you're gonna join a cult, just go full Satan, man.
Okay, folks. Well, so if you need any more expert advice on that, I am not an expert on cults and which ones you should join or not. Or I think anything that I'm not personally in is a cult, obviously. So if you do want more advice on that, I think you could probably get it by talking to other students in the class who may be experts. And you can do that in this, what's it called? Where's that thing we have here? Pronto, that little Pronto app thing on Canvas.
Scientology has a number of campuses in LA, and they're all very, very nice. And they all have cameras surrounded on the sides of the premises. I kid you not.
I know. I went to a comedy club there once, and then I went to hung out and took pictures on the at the other place there for fun for my friends, and they said, "Oh my God, you're Scientology?" I told them all I was, and I got various texts. So, okay. But now that folks, now that you know about Scientology, let's use that knowledge to move us on to what cable's this? What is this thing? I mean, it looks kind of familiar, right?
Is that an unpowered?
Unpowered. Yeah.
Folks, it's an unpowered, yeah. That's what it is. Who was that speaking to? I got a new voice in there. Thank you for answering, anyway.
I think that was Sheila.
Shyla, yeah, I think Shyla was speaking. Cool.
Yeah, I started to, but you got it. You got it.
I got both of you. That's great. I like it. I want these fantastic answers from all y'all. Okay. And voices that I don't hear as much, right? Like say you're just chilling out on the couch and sleeping and stuff, and your camera's off, you know. Once in a while you might want to pop in and pop off and just be like, hey, unpowered speaker cable. If someone else is talking to you, talk right the hell over them. All right.
This is the way.
Show them your power. I think you have it. I know you have it. What type of cable? Yeah, unpowered speaker. So this one actually, my speakers are like many people's speakers. If you have them, they got the amp built inside of them. The amp is built into the speaker itself. And so I just plug them into the wall. But if you get, if you have other speakers that are kind of lightweight and don't have their own amp in them, you need to buy a separate amplifier. And then you have to pump out a lot of juice, just like OJ did. You have to pump out a lot of juice from your amplifier into your speaker to power it. They're unpowered, so you need to get that power, okay? Well, for that, what do you got to do? You got to get a cable that can transmit a bunch of electricity. What if you had a thin little, what if you took a microphone cable, all right? And some people are like, Tim, you already asked this question. I know, but if I ask it 5 times, then eventually, like, we all get it, right? What if I take a microphone cable and I just plugged it into a big fat amp, because I was going to do a live concert and I wanted everyone to hear my horrible electronic music. So, or my good electronic music, depending. So I'm going to pump out some experimental electronic music there. I have a huge, massive speaker, right? It's taller than me. And I take a massive amplifier, I plug in a microphone cable or something that looks kind of like this, maybe really thin wire. I try to plug it into that speaker. What happens? What happens if I'm able to get the thing to connect? Really thin little wire.
You know, blow the fuse or what?
Maybe. Probably just going to melt the wire.
Yeah. No.
You know, if you try to, again, right, if you take a little straw, tiny little straw. You know those little coffee straws that are like stirrers, but they're like a straw still. You're like trying to blow through it. It takes a lot of resistance trying to go through that little hole. And in fact, the more resistance you have, the smaller the wire you have, the more resistance there is to electricity going through. Does that make sense? It's like you're trying to force something through this small little opening. There's a lot more resistance to get stuff to go through there. And what do you get as a byproduct of that resistance?
Impedance or what?
Yeah, impedance is this resistance. Exactly. So you're going to have impedance, you're going to have resistance. And one thing you get as a response to that is you get, you get friction and you get heat. So as you get more and more electricity trying to go through a small thing, you can have more resistance and more heat. And if you have a really, really thin wire gauge, a really thin wire, and you have a lot of electricity getting through it, you could melt the whole wire, okay? Or at least melt the casing around the wire. So when do we care about that? Not a whole lot of the time, honestly. But if you're plugging in unpowered speakers, or if you're, doing something like people that trick out their cars and put like massive speakers in there, okay, they're usually going to have an amplifier. They'll have thick wires, or they'll say a thick wire gauge, and they'll plug those specific wires, a specific gauge, into the speakers to make sure they can get all the electricity flowing there. Again, I basically see car audio and maybe live stage audio as one of the typical last remnants of this, because most of the speakers we now use are going to be powered speakers where they have a built-in amplifier, so everything's all like worked out for you. All right, what's the level of these? Check this out one. I can drag this stuff around. Huh? That's cool, right? My teacher sent Spidey sense was like, yes, this is so sweet. I can make like ordering things and they can drag them. So what's the lowest level?
Mic level?
Nice, okay. So that's already there for us. What's the highest level?
Professional line level.
Professional, okay.
I was going to say Tim Poland's level.
Yeah, that level is just, it's like, large and stuff. In the 90s, they used to have these jeans. They were like thicker jeans and stuff. And they would be bigger, since the style was to have like wear your dad's jeans in rap videos.
Beyond baggy.
Yeah, now it's mom jeans you're supposed to wear, but that was baggy, right? And they had these commercials who were like living large.
Those were sick.
They're trying to get a bunch of people that had missed out on what was happening culturally for 20 years to now spend a lot of money on that same stuff. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Tim, did you ever have Jean Co's for the raves?
Jean what?
You remember Jean Co's? They were like this like raver brand jean that were so baggy that like you could like put all your like party supplements in them.
I don't know what you mean by party supplements, but I can tell you that my parents would not have allowed me to wear anything like that.
Yeah, no, me neither. My family's kind of religious, so.
I was. There were a very limited amount of things we're allowed to wear.
Oh yeah, similar upbringing.
And similarly, I also we didn't have any money, so like
that helps.
I would buy like a few pieces of clothes maybe once a year, or hand-me-downs, and basically get made fun of. So I didn't have anything cool. I did see those, but
those things were pretty ridiculous.
Did not have, nor did I go to raves. But if I could have gone back at a certain point in my life, I think I would have, because I like lights and various things.
I only made it to like 2 raves, and so I wish I would have gone to more. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you made it back. Good.
Yeah, I survived though. That's good news.
Okay. Did my share of. Anyway, so mic level. What's next after that?
The second level is instrument level, because it's slower than consumer line
Instrument level. Cool. And then here's right, consumer and pro. Nice. Okay. One reason that some wires are thicker is to prevent them from melting when a large current goes through. Oh, Tim already answered that. True. What's wrong with this way these things are connected? I have a device A, like maybe I have some audio interface or something connected to this wall socket. Then I have like a mixer or something connected to this wall socket. But then I have a cable connecting the audio interface to the mixer too.
Well, there's no conditioner for sure.
I don't have a conditioner. Yeah.
Something about grounding.
Yeah, so there's a wire that in cables that doubles as what's called a ground and a shield. Ultimately, a ground is going to be able to carry any excess electricity, any surges or whatever else, and it's going to stick it into some area that can take a bunch of electricity. Okay. Now, the ultimate place to stick all electricity that you want, if there's too much, is literally the earth, the ground of the earth. And so if you have places that are lightning prone and stuff in houses, you may have a thing that diverts all the electricity, if it gets too much, directly into the ground. So that's what it means to ground it. And the grounds that we have in audio cables double as a shield too. We have basically metal wire wrapped around the internal wires. The internal wires that we have to transmit like the left and right, to our ears from our headphones and stuff, those are called conductors. They're conducting electricity. And they also drive trains. And those things bring the sound to us. But if we have a lot of electricity around and other things that are near them, electromagnetic stuff going around in the room, then we can get electromagnetic interference, because that electricity can mess with the electricity we have going through our conductor wires. We don't want that. It's gonna, because it can mess up the audio. It can distort or change things. Okay. So we have a shield of wires wrapped around them, and so it hits that rather than hitting our main conductor wires. That shield also works as a grounding source. Here's the problem though. If we have two different wall sockets we plug in things, these things can sometimes be slightly different in their electrical output. And with those differences, it ends up causing this audible sound of the electricity traveling between these things. Okay, so this is where you get this 50 or 60 cycle hum. Okay, so you can get a lot of ground noise. You typically hear this guitars plugging in amps and stuff, and pedals end up having this type of problem when they're plugged into two different outlets and then have a device connected between them. Okay, so they have actually devices that you can actually plug in between these devices, and what they'll do is they'll remove the grounding wire, or remove one pin between those devices only. You don't want to remove the grounding wire where it connects actually to the socket. Don't do that, because then you don't have ground anymore. But you can remove the grounding wire, or you can plug them both into the same socket. If you plug them into the same socket, you'll get rid of the problem, or you can remove the grounding wire. Okay. Part of this is just going to be for reference, because no one cares about this until it actually happens to them, and then like, oh my God, this buzz. Okay. And in this case, you want to be a buzzkill. So there's that. You don't want to have a loop going between two different sources here. If you understand nothing, I would say get a big fat power conditioner. It's going to make your electricity more uniform in the first place. It has a lot of outlets in it, right? It's like a surge protector plus. And then plug everything into that that's interacting with each other. If you do that, you're going to remove those ground issues. Okay, so what should we do? Since you have two devices connected together and they're connected to different sockets, you could have a ground loop where the electricity flows between these different sockets like that. Below are two audio cables. Identify the XLR one. Which one of these is XLR?
The right one on the right.
So I click on it, and look at that. I made my choice by clicking on it. Ooh, fancy, huh? Fancy canvas, man. This stuff is like bringing it on up. Loving it. Which one of these cables is a fiber optic light pipe cable? What?
That's the bottom one, right?
Bottom one.
Yeah. Submit. Confirm. Hopefully I get this right. Yes. Oh, yeah. Look at that, folks. Don't you feel superior today? Don't you feel amazed? I'll take that silence as
I do.
all right. Okay, so we did that. Let's go ahead and unshare this for a second. Am I still sharing this? Okay, perfect. I'm gonna get you guys' old attendance here, because that's super fun, right? Who loves attendance here? I know you do, Thaddeus. It's in that handwritten letter that you wrote to me last week about how you're missing having attendance because it's something you hold dearest to your heart. I said, hey, if you're going to write me a handwritten letter, I should reconsider this and take attendance again. So,
I just show up to steal your jokes. That's the only reason.
oh, good, good. I also want to let you know that I don't use my jokes to promote any religions, except for Scientology. All right. So I'm going to say your name and then, respond to me by saying yay. Okay. Francisco.
Yeah.
Sweet. Sienna. Are you in here, Sienna? Naples. Risa, I know you're in here because I talked to you.
Hey.
Hey. Regine, are you here?
Here.
There you go. Cesar, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing well.
Okay. Órale pues. Trevor.
I'm here.
Alexa.
Here.
Hey. Joshua. I wait for those clicky clicks, right? I hear all those clicks and I know someone's trying to unmute themselves so I can hear it. Joshua, okay, maybe you're not here. Too bad. I miss y'all when you're gone. Leo. Leo Kuraoka. Yeah, I took one Japanese lesson from a friend of mine and they said it's Nintendo. You break it into individual chunks. I'm like, oh, I did not know that. But no Leo, unfortunately. Okay. Robert. Sir Robert Mackey.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man. You got the long hair going now.
I've
right?
always had the long hair going.
I know. And also now.
Also now.
Yeah. Cool. Good to have you. Nathan.
Yes, sir.
Sir Steve a lot. Steve Martinez.
Here.
Okay. Daniel Mendoza.
Here.
Thad. And Donovan. No Donovan. Okay. Joseph. Ronnie.
Here.
Cool. Josue.
Yes.
Samuel. Why did they put you all in caps? You're in all caps on my syllabus. Samrita.
It looks like he's here, but he's probably not at the mic.
Oh, do we see him on? Yeah, if you see someone else in there and you're like, let's see here. Where's my thing to say the peoples? It's not telling me how many peoples are in here. So you see a Sam in there somewhere? Where am I looking around for him?
Yeah, I think it's where the palm trees are at.
Oh, there we go. Well, maybe looks like a fun place to take a nap. Okay. Thank you. How about Matthew Reyes?
Here.
Cool. Good to have you. And let's see, Jose Rubio.
Here.
Okay. Good to have you. Parker.
Here.
Connor.
Here.
Eric.
Here.
Kate. Do we see a Kate in there? Oh, one of two. Look at that. That's interesting. I'm looking around for the Kate.
So it's interesting for the quiz. You have to, when you select like those cables, you have to click within a certain parameter. It's a real small parameter. It marks you wrong.
Yeah, I tried it. I figured like I wanted you to click on the ends of these, like the plugs of them.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
if you guys end up doing that right and you have issues or that's like something's too misleading, let me know. In particular, this semester, a bunch of stuff I'm doing for the first time because COVID. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try everything out I can possibly learn with technology. And what that means is hopefully some things will be a bit more interesting in your quizzes and stuff that you're doing, but there will also be problems here and there. And if there are, let me know right away so I can fix them for you.
But
But
you're definitely crushing it, dude. You're definitely doing really good.
okay, and remember, folks, if you say things like that, right, always stroke your teacher's egos, true or not, okay, because that gets you places.
It's gospel, man.
It's the gospel, okay. I can't deny what you said because I'm not a type of person that's going to be negative. Let's see, Sam, no, Kate, okay. How about Joanne?
Yo.
Good to have you. Shyla,
I'm here.
Rain,
Here.
okay, Jacob,
Here.
okay, Christine, Naples, Samantha,
I'm here.
okay, and Anthony. Anthony Watts. Looks like there are not lots of Anthonys in here. Okay. Well, that was so fun. God, that was fun. Man. God, man. This software we have, PeopleSoft, which all the teachers call PeopleHard. Hate it. Sucks. Never tells you, like, did it save? I don't know. The screen's sitting there and it still has a little square box there. Trust me, folks, it's the worst. All right. You use it for your for signing up for classes, right? That's the software you guys use when you sign up for classes anyway. And I think we lost about 15% of our students the first semester that thing went up because it was like stupid and like hard to use and changed everyone's passwords, but didn't tell them that wasn't obvious. Had a very smart classes that semester. Only the smartest survived. It's like you guys. You got through all the hoops of COVID. All right. High quality students. Well, that's enough of that, folks. Let's talk about why sounds sound like sound, because it's one of my favorite subjects of all. What the heck is sound, folks? Anyone know? What is sound? What is fury? Are we all dead? It feels like Friday, doesn't it? Or Thursday? Are we already, is anyone else experience this as if we had just...
Emotions.
Monday's a hard one sometimes.
Monday's a hard
Yeah.
one? Okay.
Oh, real quick with the sound is vibrations.
Vibrations, okay. Good vibrations?
Like Mark Wahlberg and the Funky Bunch, yeah.
Oh, yes. Mark Wahlberg. Remember that when they used to do the basketball competitions with the, off the trampoline or something?
Hell yeah.
But that was back in the day of the Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch before he did the movies. I've heard, I don't know particularly, I'm not paying attention to it. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen because that's what I like to do most. No longer optimize it for video because that doesn't seem to do anything. Oh, and you should see PowerPoint. Ooh, fun, right? Sound theory basics, sound and vibration. What is this stuff? Some of this stuff I'm gonna like kind of breeze through a little quicker. Some of the stuff not. We're not gonna get through all of it today, by the way, either, because this is quite a big epic thing. Additionally, some of this stuff we'll spend more time on than others. Okay, so what is sound? Oh yeah, I put in some over-the-top animation here. God. So sound is a vibration that moves through the air. And it's something that we can hear, obviously, because we have these hearing mechanisms, ears, and a brain to translate that. But it's a propagation of smushing air or compressions. Smushing the air, and that travels and flies throughout some type of medium. It has to travel through something like air, liquid, or solids, right? As we know, we wouldn't hear sounds in space if we didn't have the air for them to go through, because sound doesn't travel through a vacuum. So it has to have something. It uses some materials to move through. Look at these fancy gifts I got off the interwebs, huh? So look at these things in the left diagram. And it says that when we're working with sounds, it's doing this type of slinky motion, okay? It's doing these things called longitudinal waves. So you can see, if you look at the these different things where it says wave and particles, the air itself isn't moving like from left and right and stuff when we have sound go through a room. It's the air particles, say this again, the air particles are staying in the same area. It's just that they're fluctuating, jostling, okay, when sound pressure waves come through. What is it called when we have air actually moving from place to place?
Isn't that sound?
No,
Is it vibrations?
Vibrations, basically, they change their movement of different amounts of pressure that go through the air, but the particles stay the same. So imagine this. Imagine you are looking out at the beach. Okay, one of these things we used to do. Moscow Mitch. So we're out of the beach, and you see a buoy. Anyone ever seen a buoy floating out on the beach?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. Okay. And oftentimes a sea lion is sitting on top of it. Someone's on a stand-up paddleboard going past it.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
but the
buoy,
first
sea
part. Yes.
lion, and the paddle
Great white
board
shark.
in it.
Exactly. Great white shark following closely by. Typical San Diego experience. Now, if you see that buoy and then a wave comes, what happens to the buoy? Does it come all the way to shore? Just goes like up and down, right? So the buoy is like a air molecule chilling in your room. Sound comes, passes through, jostles that buoy. It's not moving towards us or back. It's staying in the same place. It's just jostling around. That's when the air pressure wave comes through. You see a bunch of surfers sitting out there waiting for the next wave. Same thing as the buoys. Swell comes up, they go up and down. It just passes through them, right? Jostles them. They don't go to shore until they decide to like purposely jump down on the wave. So when we have air moving from place to place, that's just wind. When air is moving from place to place, wind. But you could have a non-windy day indoors, right? And you could be hearing sound go across the room. You don't feel it as like this fan on you, right? Okay. So, but it's not something that we necessarily think about at first, right? It's like something like, why is that? Okay, well, we have a certain amount of density of air molecules, right? Everything tries to just sit there at equal density or equilibrium, equal amount of stick together. But we know from filling up our tires with air and stuff that we can get like more amounts of air compacted into a space, right? Your tires get down, you gotta like put this high pressure thing into your tire and fill it up. You're forcing more air in there than that would normally be happening at equilibrium, the normal density of air we're used to experiencing, or 1 atmosphere of pressure of air. When sound comes through, sound, when I hit my hands like this, okay, I smush air temporarily. I put a bunch of energy and I smush it. And that pressure, okay, that energy I imparted it moves across the room. It actually moves in 360 degrees. It moves out in all directions like a globe. Okay. And when that happens, I create a temporary smushing of the air molecules that travels as a pressure wave. Just like you see the wave coming in the ocean. It's like gone up like this. Kind of imagine the same thing. Or you're like washing dish, you have some water sitting in the sink or bathtub or something, and you hit the surface. What happens? The energy disturbs the surface and it moves back and forth, right? Same type of thing happens with sound. Sound moves at about 1,126 feet per second, or like a little over 700 miles an hour. And it moves through the air. The energy moves through the air. And as it's moving through the air, it smushes the air that it's hitting, or compresses the air that it's hitting, okay? So you create what's called a pressure wave. And that's what sound is. You could have sounds of different intensities or lengths, all kinds of different things. If I just clap, it sends one pressure wave across the room. If I say well, the whole time I'm making the pitch, that's continuously making pressure waves go across the room. Let's look back at these things again. Here we are, and this thing's tracking a particle like that buoy. It's being smushed back and forth. And you see this thickness where more air molecules are. That ridge, or that pressure wave, moves across, or the energy moves through the air molecules throughout the room. But the air molecules stay relatively in the same area. They jostle like this once the pressure wave hits them. Let's look over here at the tuning fork. Okay, the tuning fork, when you hit it, it's actually moving back and forth really quickly. You can't see it very easily. You might be able to slightly see the vibrations, but it moves like this. It shakes the air, puts pressure in the air, and it causes it to smush. Notice that it's doing a couple of them coming out too, because it's going to be a continuous sound. So sound is moving like this in these longitudinal waves. Let's look at the top one there. Top one, it says longitudinal wave, and it has like a slinky moving, right? Does the whole slinky move? No, but the squish, where it's squished, that energy of squishing it moves. This top one is like if you take a slinky and just move it up and down. It's a different type of wave called transverse wave. Okay. So down here at the very bottom, we see a guitar, and to the right of the guitar, we see these areas of increased pressure. Now, how would you write down these areas of increased pressure if you made a graph? You can see pressure, less pressure, pressure, less pressure on the bottom by the guitar, right? Is everyone seeing this okay too? It's showing up on the screen clear enough to see it? Yeah. When we write, as we can see at the bottom with the guitar, when the computer writes down what happens, say when it's converted into a microphone to electricity, we have a little graph here going up and down. That's how much electricity we have. And as we get more pressure, more electricity is induced. When we less is. And it varies back and forth. Less, more, less, more, less, more. If it's going continually like that and moving kind of uniformly, if we just take our hand like this is a fun kindergarten type of thing. Okay, take your hand and move it up and down like this. Okay, now on the side of the screen, what would happen if you do the same thing, but you moved your hand as you moved it up and down? You move it left and right as you moved it up and down. If you do it with a pencil, you'll see that it drives a sine wave. So just moving up and down is one thing, but if you take a pencil in your hand and now move up and down while pulling your hand across, it's going to draw a sine wave. So when we have pressure increasing and decreasing, but then we give it time, the way we write down fluctuating back and forth pressure is drawing a sine wave, or something pretty close to it, depending on how even things are. When you're speaking to a microphone, and the microphone measures the amount of, measures the sound coming in from it, it reacts to it, induces an electrical current, and that electrical current reflects the less and more of the air pressure that's coming into it. That's why when we move into Pro Tools and we zoom way into something, zoom into this thing. These are the drums that you're hearing earlier. We see these individual fluctuations up and down. What? You want to see them bigger? Heck yeah. Okay. Oh no. Oh yeah.
I can seem to figure out how to zoom in like that when I'm in Pro Tools.
So you can take
like clicking the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. There's lots of different ways to do it. One way you can do it is if you just click on here and hold down the command button. If it's an Apple, I believe it'll be control on a PC. And then hit the right bracket. Right and left brackets, zoom in. There's other ways to do it too. That's the way I mostly do it. I'm gonna click right here, command right bracket, and see now I see these individual up and down things going. There's two of them because it's stereo. If I zoom way the heck out, you see what looks like just one drum hit. But if I go deep in, I see that it's more complicated. There's all these like miniature little fluctuations within that hit. See that there's this complex series of macro structures that we note when we look deep enough down and then go back out. All these little mini fluctuations, if we look far enough away, seem to make their own other like more complicated structures. If we zoom too far out, we might just think that it's individual blobs that don't have any variation in them. A lot of little samples there, right? A lot of different like fluctuations that we have in this one little instant. That's one little snare hit. So it's kind of a trip, right? Like that's a hit, but imagine when you hit a drumstick on something, it's not just, or if you're not into chicken, if you instead use some type of bat or other percussive exciter, you smash something. When you hit it, you don't just hit it for an instant. You hit it and it reacts to you when you smash it. It's like vibrating as you smash it and as you release too. So there's a lot of complicated stuff going on. It's not just one little thing that's happening. Even though we hear it as that, we hear a composite of all this stuff going on. Freaking trip. So there's lots of complexity in the smallest little thing happen. And actually, as we look at the different types of things that happen on these like tiny event level, and we look at the right zoom levels of things, we can start to understand what are the different things that make things sound the way they do. Or why do sounds sound like sounds sound? We could also see, like, if we know those things, how we might be able to change sounds so that sounds don't sound like the sound sound, but sound like other sounds sound. Okay. All right, let's do some more of that, folks. Folkity folks. Sound materials. What do we got? Materials that vibrate and the wave properties. Strings or chordophones. Musicians that are in academics especially, okay, love to just take any new sound and put the word phone at the end of it, right? Or like O right between it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And if you have something that has like a normal name, but you want it to sound cooler and put it in a paper, you need to write O phone after it, some version of that. Okay. And that's going to sell those research books. I learned that at UCSB when I was working with the Creatophone, which turned out to be a teacher using 9 speakers and giving it a name. Okay, so I rolled my eyes and gagged a bit and went along with it. But we have that for some things. It can sound pretentious, but then actually, if you look at the way we like use vocabulary for things, oftentimes there's just a lot of thinking we don't do about it. We go, oh yeah, I guess phone means sound. And so, and phony means fake sound. Shallow Thoughts by Tim Poland. Let's jump back into here. This one's called chordophone. What's a chord? You ever had corduroy jeans? Corduroy pants?
I did, yeah.
Right?
Chord is when you put some notes together.
A chord is okay, yeah, definitely. And what is the thing that you plug into the wall? What for power? Yeah, also chord, right? What is it called when you take a circle and you cut the circle and apart using a line? Geometry people? Oh, good, chord. Okay, good. So we have different uses of the word chord, but think chord like a cable, like a line going through or something, okay? And then think of that as a string. Chord like a string, like a cable. So chordophone It's something that's using strings and stuff to pluck it. So could be like a guitar, violin, piano. We change we use these things. We instigate the sound in different ways. We excite the sound in different ways. But ultimately, these things are all chordophones. Percussions, idiophones and membranophones. Okay, membranophone is like membrane, something that's stretched over something. So like a bass drum, toms, things like this. Idiophone is think idiomatic, I guess the same. The itself, the thing. The body of the instrument vibrates itself, like a triangle or something like that. You hit it, and the whole body itself vibrates. Tuning fork, same type of thing. Okay. Why am I telling you these type of things too? Because one, I didn't know these things before, and two, knowing that, like, thinking about how things vibrate and what happens with them, like why they're different, can start to like make your mind think more precisely about sound categories. I'm not going to test you actually on, well, there's not going to be no in-depth testing about these categories of sound really. I wanted to, I put them in here later on after I did the lecture a few times, because we ended up having conversations about different types of instruments. And so it gives you an idea to think, how do instruments make their sound? What's different about them? How do they vibrate themselves? And what is causing their vibration? Was causing them to oscillate and resonate. Aerophones, right? Literally air and sound. So you produce sound by blowing through them. So they actually have inside of them a vibrating air column. Okay, and you think, clarinets and trumpets and whatever, stuff like this, your voice. Electrophones, really? I know, but true. It's things that create their vibrations from electricity, moving them. There's a lot of things that can go on in sound, but three main sound characteristics or properties are things that describe the sound, are its frequency, its amplitude, frequency translates to pitch, like higher pitch, lower pitch. So how high it is, how low it is. That's frequency or pitch. Our amplitude, from soft to really loud. Okay, amplitude, how intense or how much energy is producing that. We'll see that in the waveform's displacement up and down in the graph. So what could you say about this stuff? What's the amplitude of this one compared to this this previous one?
It's kicking a lot harder. It's more intense.
Yeah, this one is more intense than this one, right? Bigger amplitude, smaller amplitude. Now frequency is going to be how many of these little mini, let's change my grid size over here too. Frequency is like how many of these little up and down cycles happen each second. It's like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. How much high and low it goes like this is like how much displacement of the air did, its intensity or amplitude, and then how many of those little cycles up and down, how many types of things vibrated. That's its frequency. Like how frequently do you drink coffee? For me, once every 3 seconds. Actually, I'm gonna wash it down with some hydrogen. With part of oxygen in there. It's good stuff. People may not know this, but if you drink a lot of coffee, you can drink more if you just drink hydrogen and oxygen in between.
Keep the party rolling.
Oh, God, that's not very good, but useful for caffeine. Can you taste it? Yeah? Okay, good. I had hooked up Zoom properly then. That would be instant espresso, which sounds bad, but it's actually good. And then no sugar cacao, pure chocolate, no sweetening. And then monk fruit to sweeten it. And also cashew nut milk, because that's how I roll here in Cali.
Actually sounds good.
It's actually better than I said. I didn't want you guys to try to take it from my screen over here.
I'm sold.
All right, I'll give you the recipe. It involves a lot of espresso. If you actually do care and want some of that, I forgot what it's called. I'll tell you, find out the name for anyone who want to know. They have this pre-made espresso that's ground up, and you just it's like instant espresso. And again, you think it's bad, but it's like the Starbucks when they made it fine enough grain. Not that bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have these properties of sound. We have frequency, pitch. We have amplitude, intensity, and we have waveform. And they put my name in there. You see that? Like Tim the Brave. Tim Bray. It says sound color. Does anyone know how that word is actually pronounced?
It's pronounced timbre.
What? Lame. Lame but true. Or in Spanish, what's that? Trevor?
Couleur. Sound couleur.
The sound couleur. It's what happens when you get that chocolate tasting alcohol and put it in milk. Sound couleur. So, no one has ever had Kahlua? Okay. Well, maybe get older. You don't need it, folks. You don't need it. It's the sound color.
I need it on a daily regimen every morning when I wake up.
Yeah?
2 shots.
Kahlua has coffee in it.
Hair of the dog.
2 shots in my coffee.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and then I wash it down with Irish whiskey.
Oh, good. I wish I had some right now.
Car bombs.
Yep. God, I can't believe some of you haven't just rolled over dying from the sheer pain of it, right? You're not expecting it and someone just shanks you with a joke like that. Something that shouldn't be heard by humans. Anyway. Oh, there it goes. There's one. Another one bites the dust. Okay, Robert's got the trumpet to try to deflect it. That's a very smart choice. So when you are talking about timbre, looks like, and again, pronounced timbre, it's the sound color. Let's look at this thing. And protizzle again. Okay. This is a particular sound color that's going to come out because look at the wave. It's not just, I mean, again, if we look close enough, we see individual things moving around here, right? Individual fluctuations. But they're not all the same, are they? Some of them more jagged, some of them more smooth. They're all different loudnesses. If I zoom way out, you start to see like a general pattern. Even though there's lots of individual little fluctuations, there's like, we could draw a line through them, right? Like in just high school science class, when you did some experiments and you're supposed to put all the data points and plot them. People are like, what are you talking about, Tim? You didn't learn science in my homeschool. Well, if you plot a bunch of data points and draw a line through them, you get a general contour. You still have a lot of variation there, right? But if we zoom back far enough, we can see some general trends. All right. You can see which memes are trendy. Okay. Hashtag weed, as they would always say. Right? So we go over here and we see these general trends. I'm going to zoom out even further. And like you see these trends we saw, it's just like this one little fluctuation of this bigger wave. Zoom out far enough and we see what? So what's the point of all this stuff? The point is that the wave doesn't move exactly in the same way each time. Even something that looks kind of similar, many times there are tiny differences in the little fluctuations and how it goes up and down. In fact, each of those fluctuations represents a musical pitch. So that drum hit there has all kinds of musical pitches in it. Lots of them at the same time. We hear it collectively as a thing, but it's really compositive of a bunch of different fluctuations and a bunch of different changes in the way the wave, that sine wave that we drew earlier, in the way that wave goes up and down, how jagged it is, and how steep the curve of it is, all that type of stuff. So that entire set of differences is called the waveform. The manner in which the wave individually does all its little fluctuations and stuff. So we have how often does something happen? Frequency, that changes how high and low we hear. We have how loud it is, amplitude or intensity. In music notations and stuff, you'd say forte, like forceful, for loud, and piano for soft. We could say, louder in decibels or softer in decibels. Waveform is the timbre, looks like timbre, or the particular color of the sound. What's the sound of a guitar versus a trumpet, versus a violin, versus a voice, right? If we all play the same pitch at the same time to play the same note together, we also know that it wouldn't be the same note. It would be the same potentially pitch and how high it is, but we could distinguish the difference of it because of the differences in its waveform. We could go, oh, that's the timbre or color of a piano versus a voice, even if it's the same pitch. Yeah. Questions about that at the moment? Seems awfully quiet even for a COVID teaching day.
Yeah, I think we got it. Or,
Makes a lot of sense.
If I can speak for everyone.
Yeah, you can. And I would say that not only can you speak for everyone, but you are every man and every woman and every child.
I'm every woman.
I'm more of a hands-on learner.
More hands-on learner. Yeah.
Hard for me to retain all these words.
You gotta grip the waveform. Feel it.
Yeah, you got to grip. Well, so, I would recommend, so first of all, understand that if you sing any of my lectures, I don't expect everyone to understand everything the first time too, especially if it's a new thing. So Risa, understand that you are also represented. I'm joking and being too sarcastic sometimes, but a lot of us are going to be like, what is all this stuff? And especially if it's new vocabulary, no matter how smart you are, if you are inundated with a bunch of new vocabulary pieces, then just keeping those in your mind, outside of understanding the concept, right? It's going to take some time to get those in your mind. Once you're more used to them, you hear them as normal things. If you already heard the word timbre and stuff, that's going to be a lot easier to put together. So since all of us two are at different places in the class, so far as our knowledge experience and our vocabulary experience with respect to these things, it's not going to be the same experience for each of you. And it shouldn't be, right? Because you have different areas in these things. So if you are not understanding them, it's going to take several times. I have the PowerPoint up there for you to look at it. And I would recommend going into Pro Tools itself, zooming in on some files and looking at these things, and then listening to some. We are going to do more stuff with this later, where we experience some of these things. It's not quite at this point in the lecture too. So there's more depth that goes on a lot of these things. And I'll be going through this lecture all of all this Wednesday as well. In fact, possibly a little bit into the next week, because it's a big one. There's lots of stuff in it. And we'll be playing around with stuff as well, hearing these sounds and understanding that. One of my hopes is that some of this will inspire some of you also to consider making your own sounds. And thinking, hey, now that I know why sounds sound like sound, could I make any sound my heart desires and my mind dreams of? I don't have a heart, so I use my mind instead when I get emotional. And my mind sometimes has a just big, huge spot in it for making sounds. If you haven't made sounds by yourself already and created your own sounds, it is awesome. It's like you're given a bunch of paints and now you know what to do with them. You could create something no one has ever heard before. Just the best, folks. That's the best. And you could do it all like in Pro Tools even. With some synthesizer. Sweet. Just think about all those next nights you're going to be spending all that night. You want to hang out with significant other, and then now you have more important things to do. Like sit around at 2 a.m. with your headphones on making new sounds. Hell yeah. Okay. I'm not saying break up with them, but just tell them who's first and who's second. Number one is computer.
It's a slippery slope.
I'm not going to say what it is, folks. Okay. You have to decide. But be careful. Addictive. All right. Let's get back in here. So that's that stuff. Amplitude is the loudness or intensity we experience of things, and it's how much the air is shook when it's shook. Right? I shook this a lot, so it goes up and down larger. On the bottom here, I'm looking at the one on the right. It's less. I thought I made a GIF out of that. Oh well. So the more it displaces things up and down with respect to the main line in the middle, the larger we call it, or the larger its amplitude. Okay. The cycle from one of these compressions, the part moves up, one of the rare fractions, the part that moves back down, the whole thing from the up part to the down part, that whole thing is one wave, one wavelength. It includes the part where it swishes the air, and right behind it where it makes less air or rarefies it. So compression, rarefaction. Okay. Some of you may have seen these already in your high school classes or college classes, right? You may have seen like sine waves and stuff, and see people talking about amplitude of something like that in a math class. I don't know, but anyways, it's there. Those of you who did a lot of trig, you'll be seeing this already. Hashtag triggered. Measurements for these. Again, things that I'm not going to be going into in depth of here. I have the depth here mostly as a reference for you and as a exploratory framework to start with. So we measure things in different ways in loudness. Sometimes we're measuring, sometimes we're actually just measuring air pressure specifically within the air, right? And these things, so acoustic sounds measured in pascals or dynes, okay? And this thing on the right of it, it says dBSPL for decibels sound pressure level. That's we're actually measuring the air, okay? But a lot of times what we're also doing is we're measuring things not in the sound pressure of, not in the air pressure, but we're actually measuring the amount of electricity. You speak in a microphone, right? Here I'm speaking in my microphone. Hey, what's up? And I do, and it shakes the coil wire inside the microphone, and then that makes a current, a flow of electricity. So what am I doing in my computer? I'm measuring the amount of electricity that comes there. And so a lot of times when we're measuring loudness, we're measuring the electricity that results from translating it through an instrument. Okay, if you do that, talk about that. We're talking about electrical sound waves in voltage variations. So this dBu or dBV for decibels units or decibels volts here. Okay, they have all these variation here. I have these, most of the things I think I've told you what they are over here. Yeah, dB Pro Audio measures stands for decibel volume unit. dBV, decibel volts. What's the takeaway here? We could measure actual air pressure variations and talk about that loudness, or we could measure the resulting electricity in different ways. And they have different units of measurement for that. They're all using these things called decibels. So what the heck is a decibel? A decibel, anyone know what that is? Kind of like a crude definition for it.
Like a measurement of sound level.
Yeah, it's like the sound level of the noise.
Anyone know where it comes from? The term?
The French? I don't know.
10 bells.
What's it?
It's 10 bells.
10 bells.
Oh yeah, deci, yeah, 10.
What is a bell? Is that like a church thing? Those big things that hang and like tell you when you're supposed to go to service?
No. It's the sound beautiful? Is that 10 beautiful? Bell? Beautiful?
You guys ever heard of that graham cracker? Right? Alexander Graham Bell?
Oh, yeah. Graham cracker.
Actually, that's quite a different thing there. But folks, if only we was teaching history classes. I was inspired by drunk history, and that stuff is amazing. History is so crazy. As you know, history is always about winning and then covering up what you did. So no one has to learn about it. And then forming national pride right afterwards. Okay. Anyway, that's for my other class called What Really Happened that they didn't teach you in high school.
Sign me up.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's too much of it though, right? So let's talk about sound then. Bells. Alexander Graham Bell. You've heard of the guy? That's where you get this term Bell from. You heard of Bell Labs? No. Anyway, we had all these scientists and audio designers way back in the day that did a lot of cool inventing. And one of them is Alexander Graham Bell. And when we measure things, we measure them in 1/10 of him. Decibels. 1/10 of a bell. Decibels. So a decibel is just a different pronunciation of decibel, meaning 10 bells or 1/10 of bell. Okay. So it's actually a scale. Earthquakes, folks, you love them. I love them. My girlfriend does not like them. Okay. She has fear related to earthquakes, but I generally welcome them. Except for that one on Easter. Guys, remember that one? Some of you old enough to, back in the day, there's this one on Easter.
Oh my God, it was like a 6.7 thing.
I think it was
Yeah, that
actually,
one was
I
gnarly.
think it was 7.2, actually. We got to look it up. It was in San Diego.
Yeah.
I was outside with my parents. We had done some Easter thingy or something, and it was shaking so much I almost fell over. I'm like, dang. Quite a long time, too. It seemed like one of those things you hear about in the movies, and no, that was happening. Things were falling over.
I was in the gym listening to heavy metal, and I was like, it's a sign. I can't listen to this devil music anymore.
Man, you can't tell me you're in the gym like that. Okay, it's COVID.
Right. This was 10 years ago, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but right.
Up your belly.
God,
That was in 2009. He was a 5.9.
2 point. No, this I don't. Well, I don't. When was the Easter earthquake here? It depends. I guess it depends where you were to see.
My kid was 1 when it happened. That's how I remember. I think it was 2011.
It was about 10:48 in the morning.
Okay.
No, this one was the afternoon. This was more like 3, 4 in the afternoon.
Okay. Let's see what this thing was. 7.2. That's the one I remember.
Yeah, the Baja quake. That's
2010. Wait, no. Was it 2010? No. No, it wasn't 2010. But was it? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, the thing was serious. It was going off. And San Diego, it was rocking. But other people have, you've been in LA, you've been in San Francisco, okay? There's certain places where if you're listening to metal, you're more likely to get the earthquake to happen, okay?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. If you start sitting too much in Florida, you're probably going to get a hurricane. But different gods in different states in charge of those things, I think. What does it have to do with sound? Well, various things. But when you measure an earthquake, okay, and someone's like, "Oh, that was a 6." You're like, yeah, but I've had a 7.2. All right. So, yeah. And where is it centered? Okay, yeah. How much greater in magnitude is a 7 than a 6?
It's like it goes by tens, right?
Yeah, it's 10 times greater.
Actually, as I say this, I doubt myself. I'm like, wait, is it 10 or is it 100? I believe it's 10. So correct me if I'm wrong. Always the same thing, because if I do something that's somewhat off, I oftentimes go on tangents and explains things. If there's something that's not correct in there, or you think it's not, call me out, because I don't want any incorrect information to be there. So let's go for that at the moment, though. The main point is it's much bigger. It's not 1 time bigger, right? That would be linear. It's not like, a 6 and then 7, you add 1. 10 times more. So if someone experienced a 5 earthquake, a 5 years, I'm starting to feel it. I'll sleep through it probably, but I'm like, something happened there. Must have been listening to too much metal with Eric. Okay, so that's a 5. Now your 6 then is what? 10 times more. But what is a 7 compared to a 5?
That's 100.
100, dog. Then you go up to an 8 and a 9, and you go, whoa, wait. Okay, that would be 10,000. 10,000, right?
Colin, I'm pretty sure that you just gave out wrong information. You said that there might be too much metal. There's never too much metal. You can never listen to too much metal.
What about doom metal though? That's true. And also, if you're a metalhead too, there's problems with it though. If you're a metalhead, you have to know every single album from every never heard of band, because if you don't, you're not really legitly, a metal person, right? So you must know all metal.
Poser.
Yeah. If you can't just drop a name that someone else doesn't know and shame them, do you really like metal? So just want to let you know that. Okay. I am not a metalhead. My brother is though. And I don't know how, he has many PhDs worth of information about metal. And I always go, how the hell does he keep that on his he used to have
How about cutting sessions where you shame other jazz musicians for not knowing how to play standards?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm not going to try to say that there isn't a bunch of
a bunch of shade thrown in jazz, because jazz can be a place for like huge levels of shames. Yeah, it's actually in classical music too, but people don't care as much. So it used to be more sessions there, but definitely the shade. You don't know all the standards by heart in every single key easily.
All I can tell you is that my dad asked me what I wanted for my 40th birthday, and I told him metal. So he sent me silver.
Good for him. Now, as you know, silver has its own specific sound. It sounds like triplets.
You know I like Thaddeus.
Okay. And if you're just playing straight ahead jazz, folks, are you really a jazz musician? So let's get out of the shade though, folks, because it's sunny California. And we want to get back to this metaphor, okay? And to this measuring system. When we're measuring sound in decibels, okay, we're measuring it in a system that's like the earthquakes. Okay, it's not just linear. It doesn't get just bigger by one thing. It gets bigger by multiples of things. And so when we're dealing with those things, we're using what's called logarithmic scales. Okay, it's like exponential, right? Logarithms like the backwards exponential, 2 squared, go backwards. And so it's the same type of thing that we move not just a little bit, but what we call orders of magnitude greater. Now, why would we measure something in a system that does it like exponentially rather than linearly? Does anyone have any clue? Let's see.
Head scratch.
That's how our ears work.
Yep, that's it. That's how our ears work. We don't hear super small variations in loudness. Hardly at all. It sounds almost the same to us. It has to be quite a bit different compared to something else. So if you say, how loud is this thing compared to something else? Oh, that was like twice as loud, dog. And so we hear things in mostly in doublings or near that. It's hard to hear stuff for humans that are smaller levels of stuff. So if we talk about the way our ears hear, mostly hearing in doublings, then it's better to express things when we're writing it down in ways that correspond more to how our ears hear it. If we didn't, we'd talk about a bunch of little tiny differences in sound that we wouldn't notice. A computer would, but we would be like, what? I didn't hear any difference between that. Okay. So we do it with decibels or logarithmic scale. In fact, we do that with a lot of things too. When we're listening to pitch, the difference in cycles per second or frequency, we don't hear a lot of difference between 440 hertz, 440 cycles per second, or 441. Some people tell me they do. Most of them are lying, and the rest of them have absolute pitch of a magnitude that's abnormal. But most of us don't hear things unless they're a certain amount of difference in pitch or loudness. So we write both these things down in exponential scales. Later on, we'll start to see why that kind of stuff becomes important. You know, you want to see how much louder something is in the mix and that type of thing. Okay. So we have this loudness stuff in different measurement systems. You'll see these things now too. Even if you don't understand what's going on to a certain degree, you look at your like microphone or you look at your headphones and it'll say something about decibels in there. And you're like, oh, okay. I think that dB thing, that's for decibels. All right, it's dBU, it's like decibel units or something. Okay, gotcha. So once you hear the vocabulary, even if you don't understand it, you hear it a few times, and then you'll start noticing it places, right? Anyone here have a Toyota? Honda? Ford?
Honda.
Honda?
Honda, baby.
Got a Ford?
Ford.
Ford?
Ford Explorer.
Yes, sir.
Ford Explorer. Okay. And what's your hat say there? A. AC?
Is that alternating current on there?
Oh man, I love the gimmicks and stuff that go on. Occasionally, I'll be looking at someone's screen and like kind of see like some joke that you're pushing there, a visual joke, some gag. Always appreciated. Yeah, you might be an AC type of person or a DC type of person. Okay. But this class is going to be dealing mostly with AC. So if you don't, if you see this stuff and you think you haven't learned something too, or you're not sticking your head, don't trip. You'll start, as you hear it a couple more times, or as we discuss more in class, you'll start to pick it up in your head. And then you'll start to notice these things in your audio world you're working in. Just like if you have a Ford of a particular model or a Honda or Toyota or something, as soon as you got that car, you're driving around, now you start noticing everyone else who has that car too. Like, oh, no shit, this person has a Honda too? Oh, what? They got that 1 year. And you know what your year is and what it looks like and whatever else and what your rims are supposed to look like. And, so when we do that, then our brain becomes primed, right? That's what they say in psychology, right? Your brain is now primed to notice something. So you do that, and then you help noticing more. What's that? Is that from the Predator? Dad?
That's Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah. Okay. Game of Thrones, right? Yes, it's the dragon coming down there.
Cersei's riding the beast.
I should know that, okay? Because I've watched all the Game of Thrones, and I was crying at the end because it was over.
Tim, I'm riding the beast with you. I'm following along.
Yes, you've done so valiantly too, and all of you have there. Look at all y'all there. Yeah, I like that outdoor place you got over there, Joanne. There, that looks cool. You got the windows going, sunshine on the hair, man. Looks like a good day for COVID, man. All right, and yours is either that or you got the world's greatest green screen. I'm gonna go with that. Got like the tech savvy going on, like Einstein style.
Real life green screen's the new thing.
Hey, sometimes we just got to make it like that, folks. We just got to rule because that's our job.
You are speaking to us in the perfect DBU.
Thank you. Thanks, DBU.
Or is it DBV?
Well, this would be DBU because I'm using professional level for you guys. Okay.
Yeah, attaboy.
That's right. I don't want to give you guys any consumer stuff. This is the pro go. So we hear logarithmically, and I explain that. I say linear versus exponentially. Linear, I'm going 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, blah, 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 up to 32. And when I'm doing exponentially, I go 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. Or to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's 2 squared, y'all? 2 times 2, right?
4.
What would be 2 cubed? 2 times 2 times 2.
8.
Some of you are like, oh my God, you already lost me and then you masked me. Don't do math, folks. Makes you skinny. So 2 times 2 is 4. So that's 2 squared. 2 to the second power. Times 2 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 2 is
16.
Okay, now that times 2 is
32.
So 2 to the 5th power is 32. What's 2 to the 6th power?
64 Nintendo.
That's right.
Nintendo.
Nintendo. What's 2 to the 7th power then?
Sorry, 128.
128. 2 to the 8th. Folks, you know it's 256, 512, 1024. We all know it's 2048. Come on. I know all my 2 powers, or to quite an extent, just because since computers count with only zeros and ones, they only count with 2s at a time. They count in binary. It's called binary, meaning by 2, nary, number, binary, 2 numbers. So computers count with just zeros and ones to say electricity is either on or off. So they count with binary. And because of that, all your hard drives, the size of your phone, storage, right? How much you got on your phone, folks? Lisa, what's your phone storage on it?
I'm sorry, what?
How much storage does your phone have on it? Do you know?
It has a lot.
Okay, cool. How about Joey? How much storage is on your phone? Enough to fill the skies.
I heard the new iPhone coming out is going to have a terabyte.
That's a lot of bytes, folks.
Mine has actually more, well, just as much as my computer does, about 256 gigabytes.
Gigabytes, right? So 256, right? Twice 128. These are numbers that are all involved with powers of 2, multiples of 2, because that's how things have to be made for computers to be able to understand them. Okay, Trevor and I were discussing this the other day when his system decided it wasn't going to record anymore because it says, nope, I can only record 2 gingerbytes, as I call them. There's certain storage limits depending on how big the numbers are your computer works with. We're going to jump into this stuff but much more and talk about ginger bytes, which are red data, gigabytes rather. We're going to talk about those later, but we're going to talk about them a bunch with two purposes. One purpose is talking about audio and like how big audio stuff is and how accurate it is, that type of thing. Another one we're going to talk about is MIDI, or musical instrument digital interface. When we talk about MIDI, actually, you're going to really be familiar with this number of 128 because almost everything you do in MIDI uses these things called 8-bit numbers. It only uses 7 of them, really, but well, kind of. It's complicated. But the point is we're going to be dealing with what looks like 7 or 8-bit numbers. And if something says 8-bit, like you're talking about old school Nintendo, you say, oh, someone says that's 8-bit. When you're talking about things called bits, okay, bits just refers to specifically numbers and how big your numbers are. If you have 8 bits, it's 2 to the 8th power, or 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 8 times. And when we're controlling stuff with MIDI controllers and playing stuff into the computer and stuff, it's all using these, for MIDI stuff, it's using these small numbers. And I'm going to see how they use to explain things. When we're talking about audio, we're going to use these bigger numbers. And I'll have a lecture on this a few weeks from now, several weeks actually, where we'll go in depth on that stuff. We'll talk about digital audio and exactly what it is and bit depth and sample rate more. I'd like to introduce all these concepts though earlier, so we've kind of quasi heard about them. So by the time we get to them, we're like, oh yeah, I think I heard about that somewhere. So let us move on because we're almost done skis, right? We end at 4:50, isn't that correct?
2:45.
Really?
Yeah, usually. But we usually hang till 3:30. But then on Monday, you usually got to leave at 3 because of your COVID class.
Yeah, although I had some kids cancel because they got sick, probably the COVIDs. Okay, they didn't tell me, but I don't know. They're the types that don't believe in it. I'm like, well, we still wear a mask though, okay? Because it's the rules of the business, So anyway, we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait on that one. All right. Luckily, they didn't come today, so I don't have to be there till 4. What is up? Oh, this is being recording. I love the kids. Okay, I love them. Just sometimes you want to break. All right. Decibels more. Oh God, I don't want more details in this stuff. There's a lot of ways in which you measure stuff, and a lot of information about decibels. So most of this stuff for us is for reference. And when you end up seeing stuff then, like on your audio devices, you can go, oh, okay, my thing is I'm measuring with a consumer device, like a TV or a DVD player or something. I'm using dBV, this consumer decibels. I'm working with pro audio stuff. It's going to be dBu plus 4 dBu. Probably you don't need to know anything about the amount of volts it means and stuff too, but this is what all that stuff is. Acoustic sound waves, why do you need to know dB SPL? This is the stuff that happens actually in the physical real world that we hear. The actual air pressures that get shook, okay? Sound waves is power. Power is the moving of things, the doing of stuff with the energy, okay? And that's measured in what's called watts. If it's very loud, then you have watts of power. Digitized sound waves, when we're dealing with stuff in Pro Tools and our audio softwares, that one's like one of the most important ones we're going to deal with. It's dBFS, decibels full scale. When we're in a fader, and folks, we often are, let's be honest here. If I'm playing back the sound file here, you don't hear anything, right? Okay, but
no sound at the moment.
Perfect, just like I expected. Okay, if I'm doing that though, playing back, I see this little, I see where on this little drum area, I see that this sound is going up in the green, right? I'm going to click on this little thing, and now you see that the sound is going up this meter. In the bottom it's minus 60, but you see that it's going up to like almost minus 20 here. The very top here is 0, is the loudest it can possibly get without being too loud for digital stuff.
You probably get some noise at that point though.
Yeah, that's where you would have it digitally just cut off because you used all your digits. So you're finished. Right? You just cut it all off. And that's because in digital audio, when we're measuring the loudness or amplitude, we have a certain amount of numbers that we can use to measure differences in loudness. That's our what's called our bit depth. Okay, bit is for binary digit, by the way. It's just like a combination of the two, bit. But people were very funny, and you have 8 bits, and they call it a byte because it's like a little bit and a big byte. Because people were dorks and made bad jokes, and then they put it into their vocabulary. So if you like bad, stupid jokes from dorky people, get more into this stuff, because a lot of these words you realize like it's called a byte because of that. That's what its name came from? No way. And someone's like, dude, way. Someone else is like, no me llamas way. So if you're looking at these deep cases then of deep down to audio, we were talking about how we measure them with these numbers and the way computers can do it. And audio, when we recorded on CDs, was standardized at what's called 16 bits. As you learned from before, 2 to the 8th power is 256. 2 squared is 4, right? 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the 3rd power is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. And it just doubles and doubles and doubles like those earthquakes, right? Not like the Easter earthquake, though. That one's special. Does anyone know? You can use your phone. What 2? You can use your phone. Does anyone know? You can use your phone. What 2 to the 16th power? You can use your phone. Is? You can type it into Google. Google will answer it for you. Google knows all. Google Stronky. Type it in there. 2 to the 16th power. Some of you checking out like that is too much. What's that number, folks? I want that number. You got that number? Give me that number, folks. That's what I want. Almost done. See, someone can type that into Google's. Connor, Nate.
65536.
65,536. Okay. So you have 65,000 possible variations in how loud things are with 16-bit. Okay. So
and we're on 64-bit these days, right?
Kind of. So our operating systems are 64-bit, or actually they could be both 32 and 64-bit.
Yeah, Mojave.
So I'm using Apple's Mojave operating system. It's 32 and 64-bit capable. It can run if you went to the newest OS, Catalina. It's only 64-bit. We used to all have 32-bit operating systems. And because of that, there's certain size limitations for how large we can have hard drives, how large files can be talked about. Because if it's too big, the computer's like, I don't know what to do with that. I can only think in 32-bit numbers. Our audio, though, we don't record in general in 32 or 64-bit. Now, the humans can hear a certain amount of differences in audio, certain amounts of differences in loudness in the first place. At some point, accuracy could be greater than our hearing is capable in the first place. So we only need numbers that can accurately display, this is a simplified version of it, that can accurately display all the differences in loudness variations that our ears can actually hear. 16-bit isn't enough for that, or not enough to give it nuance throughout different ranges. Quick tangent. How much space, folks? How much distance is there between here and here? The bottom of my hand, top. I say it's about 6, 8 inches. I can't measure that much, but something like, say my hand's like 7 inches long or something.
What do they call it, a digit or something like that?
This is a distance from here to here, right? How many different data points could I fit from here to here? Like, how much, if I could cut, yeah, well, yeah, actually, right? Infinite amount of lines I could put in between there. Okay. How much could I fit between this space?
Half of infinite.
No, infinite again. You ever take a microscope and look really, really, really close up at something? Or see a really close up picture? You see all these things you never noticed they were there? They're there, but you weren't close enough. You didn't zoom in there, right? a concept that blew my mind in high school when I first took a calculus class and didn't think I was going to like it, but then I thought, well, this class was crazy, was that infinity can be different sizes. There are different sizes of infinity. As one great, can you even say that one infinity is greater than another? Kind of. If I had a really, really soft sound, super soft sound, and I wanted to give a nuance to it when I measured it, I would have to put a lot of data points on very low levels of loudness to measure it accurately. But if I wanted to record something from very, very, very soft to very, very, very loud, then I would even need more data points because I have to be able to measure the soft stuff, but something quite a bit bigger. So I'd need even more data points to measure that. What if something was the same loudness the whole time? Would I need a lot of variations and numbers to measure that? Exact same loudness the whole time?
You may have compressed it to get that kind of.
Yeah, if I compress the heck out of something, if I smush everything so everything is the same loudness, I need very little data to measure the differences. I could record something with 8-bit rather than the 16-bit, and it would sound perfectly awesome. If I have not very much variation in the loudness, okay? Because then I don't need very much bit depth to measure that. There's not much variation, so I don't need much in there. Theoretically, right, I want infinite amount of data points to measure everything. But in practice, if you think about it more carefully, if we don't have a lot of difference in the loudness, there's not a lot of variation, we don't need a lot of numbers to describe that difference. Okay. Currently, well, most people record with this 24 bits, which is 16.7 million differences. 16-bit, 2 times itself 16 times, right? Every time you multiply it by 1 more power, 2 to the 15th, you go from 2 to the 15th to 2 to the 16th. Every time it's multiplying a huge number by 2 again. So 2 to the 17th, okay, would be twice as much as a 16-bit number. So once you get up to 24, you've multiplied that same number by itself multiple times. This big number gets larger and larger and larger, as we would say, exponentially larger. 16-bit recording for audio is 65,000 variations. 24-bit number is 16.7 million variations.
Yeah, it's totally exponential.
So, and you don't have to memorize this. I just know these numbers off the top of my head because I'm a person. I don't know. I've dealt with them enough. And you have so much more nuance when you have that many data points to describe something. Now, we could do 32-bit, we could do 64-bit, and some people actually do record audio in 32-bit. Not a whole lot, honestly, but you can do it. And certain audio interfaces record in. Most audio interfaces record at least to 24-bit. There's still a few too. Trevor, what does your not Snowball, but
Appleton?
No, his microphone there, the monster there.
Oh, the Blue?
Yeah, the Yeti.
Blue will do yeah, it does 24-bit and it does up to 192K.
Okay, and I think there's a couple different versions of that. I don't know if it's the same anymore, but there's a couple USB microphones too that some of them they'll have like a little bit less pro one, and it'll be 16-bit, and then they have the more pro one and it's 24-bit. You can get a great recording actually with either one of those, but most of these are using this huge amount of numbers, up to about 24 bits to record things. Okay, and so when you're looking at this graph in Pro Tools, seeing this thing go up here, from this thing minus 60, very, very, very quiet, or minus this sideways 8, meaning infinite, from that all the way up to 0, okay? From that all the way up to 0, Pro Tools will be able to use, if you're in 16-bit, 65,000 numbers, and in 24-bit, 16.7 million numbers to try to use data points to model how your sound varied in loudness. And so that allows us to try to authentically replicate the sound. That's one big thing that happens when we listen to audio. The other one that Trevor said when he said a different number is how often we take a snapshot of what's happening with sound. So one is like, as the sound happens, I measure, it was this loud. It was 15.675 million numbers high. Okay, we could say where was it on the graph there? But another question you could ask is, how often do we take a picture of what's going on in the sound? Anyone have a, probably don't anymore. Anyone know how many megapixels their camera phone is?
Are they 21.6 these days by what, 1440?
Okay, so you're talking about the lines of resolution, right? So let's do this one. Anyone have a HD TV? You look on? How about
4K
I have
video.
a 1440p
4K?
monitor.
Okay, 4K.
48 megapixel selfie.
That's a big selfie. Or as they call that, selfish. When you have a TV, you can have different resolutions, or your computer can have different resolutions, and same can your phone. They'll talk about how many lines they divide up the screen in. If you have enough lines, they're so small that you see nothing. It just looks just like a picture, right? But if you go right up next to your TV and stare at it, you'll see that there's little, if it's low enough resolutions, you can see that there's little individual glowing dots, individual pixels, especially on older school TVs and things. So these are how much detail and data is on each picture, okay? The next thing is how often you take pictures of what's going on. So anyone play video games here? Like PC gamer?
Yes.
Or you know
I
a
just
PC
know
gamer?
my PC.
If you're a PC gamer or you know PC gamers, you're going to be talking about frame rates. What do you want at least for your frame rate?
60?
60.
You want
Yeah.
at least 60 times per second. Basically, the screen is flashing with pictures that it took. Okay, so if you're taking a selfie, but accidentally you put it on video. Okay, your phone might be taking somewhere between like 30 and 60 pictures a second of you. And then when you push play, it just flicks through this. It goes like a catalog of papers, like a flip book. It just goes through those pictures really quickly. This is not fully true, but just go with analogy. So they fly by and then makes the video. Okay. When you're doing that with audio, each picture is measured with the bit depth. Did you use that 16-bit picture or the 24-bit picture? And the next thing is, how many times per second, if you want to make a video version of it, how many times per second did you make a reading of like what's going on? How many pictures per second did you have? What's your frame rate of your audio? And the typical ones are 44,100 times per second. They take a reading. But you can do other ones like 48,000 times a second. Okay, so this stuff is all going on with our digital audio. I think that's about where I want to stop today. We're going to start next with looking briefly at analog and digital stuff and about some ideas of distortion. Again, a lot of this is going to be for reference for you. And then when things are more important or we need to know about it, I'll point those things out. But I want to talk about, loudness and how things get clipped off. Then we'll look more in depth at each of these ideas of like what frequency is, how humans hear that, ranges of instruments and how they relate to the frequencies. Kind of how we can look at this and visualize these things. Then we'll get into how things work in sounds. We'll dive more into that and look at like how this timbre is made up of all these different things, how amplitude and frequency combine together to give us a sonic picture of things. At the end of the lecture, we'll also look briefly at how human hearing works. What happens when sound comes in to your ear balls and your brain balls, okay? And how do we hear these things? We even look at a few things like, how did Beethoven hear music of his when he was deaf? Because he still was able to hear some of his own music when he was deaf, when his ears didn't work. Did you know that?
You must have been able to feel it, feel the colors and all that.
I mean, I feel you, but I can't tell you right now because you have to have
Yeah.
something to look forward to, right? Oh, yeah. So more of that coming. I'll also be having a couple more things come up soon for you guys to be messing with in a practical sense. So if you haven't already done that, get your editing stuff done that was due last night. Get that done and, submit that. You should always be just checking to see what the due dates are, because most of the time I remind you, but you ultimately have to check those things yourself. So get those things done. If you haven't got something done, what happens? Do I hate you? Of course. But
5% more every day you hate.
yes, I hate on you for 3 days and then I'm over it. So I tend to forget and forget pretty. If you haven't done something, even if it was like the beginning of class and you should have done, you never did it, you can still get 85%. So just do it. I'm happy to have you do it anytime in the semester. Before it's due is the best, but I want you to learn and understand how to do stuff. And if you do it at some point rather than not, then you learn how to do stuff. And so I'm happy. So do that for me and for you or for whatever. Get your stuff done.
When we turn it in, do you want us to turn it in like through SoundCloud and then send the Pro Tools session the same file, or
whatever it says in the instructions, right? It's going to be different things depending. So
well, because I did read in the instructions, but I was confused.
Okay, for that one, then yes, you zip up the session and upload it as well as separately from SoundCloud. So this one asks for two things.
Did anyone else have that same problem though, where they could only get the zip and not the SoundCloud, or vice versa? I can only get one to go through on Canvas at a time.
Yeah, because it only lets you one, I think.
I have a fix for that. So first you paste in the link, don't submit right away, paste in the link, then toggle over to, first you attach the file. First you attach the file, the zip file, then you don't hit the submit button yet, toggle over to the link, tap on the link, and then cut and paste the link in, and then that way.
I did that.
That way, well, because if you do it, what happens is if you resubmit, then with only one, then it resubmits with only one. So you attach the file first, then you go to the link box, copy paste the link into the link box with the file already attached, then hit the submit button.
See, that's what I did. I put the zip, then I went over to the link.
Hold up real quick, folks. I'm not intending it to be that hard for you to do. So who was it that brought that up in the first place? Thank you for that.
That was me. Sorry, Eric.
I think someone else was talking about it too. Like, okay. Either way, for each of you respond to that. I appreciate it. I always do want you to speak up, and if I haven't brought it up, bring it up anyway, because it's important for me to know that sometimes something like this. My intent was the learning experiences. You're supposed to do something, right? You're supposed to submit something, and then you're supposed to get used to the idea of dealing with the Pro Tools session, because people often get lost in like trying to submit, trying to share the Pro Tools session with someone else. Moving it from a computer to computer, you have issues. So if you're able to find the whole folder rather than just the file, the whole folder, and zip it up and send it to someone, then you're on the road to having more successful work in music where you're able to share music with people. So that's the whole goal of me having you uploaded. So since I'm now aware that it was making it a pain to do in Canvas, because it won't let you just submit the two things automatically in a straightforward way. My intent is not to have the extra misery for you guys. So if you have one thing show up there, fine. It's just I'm going to need to verify during the semester that each of you is able to like know where your Pro Tools file folder is, how to take the entire folder and share it with someone, and this type of stuff. So I'll alter the assignments in future if I have you upload things to make it so you can just paste two links in and link to the file, because I don't want to have to go through this experience. Okay, so long as you got one of those things done for the assignment here, I'll give you credit. What I really wanted to see is do the editing, and that you can deal with the Pro Tools folder. So thank you for that. If new things come like this with any other assignment, let me know right away, and I really appreciate it if you would message me in Canvas or something about that as well. And then if you can do so, I'll try to then fix whatever is having issues too. I definitely will not be looking to penalize you for some issue related to me or Canvas itself and that.
Yeah, you were super available last night, so I appreciate that, man. That was
Oh, okay, thank you.
There's a wording confusion too, because even though some computers say, like PCs will often say zip or unzip, Macs will say compress or uncompress.
True.
So the compress button, that means
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, so on a Mac, if you say you want to zip up your file, meaning it says compress your file versus zip on a PC. So yeah, so basically just let me know. Let me know if there's confusions or issues. Like Risa, when you spoke up earlier about not like, everything coming to you, and not to totally put you in the spot a little bit, but it's like, hey, a lot of us feel that way too. But when we're in a Zoom class, you know, there's not a lot of back.
I get it. I just feel like the other day when I had to catch up on an assignment, I learned a little bit more when I was actually messing around with the Pro Tools.
Oh yeah, and you're
But
totally with it. It's just, you're just being very honest about like, you know, you're learning and like what things are coming in, and not everyone is brave enough to do that. So I'm just saying that we're all learning in different levels too. But if you're not having everything in your head, that's perfectly okay to state that. There's going to be half the class who's not saying anything, who feels the same way or feels like more lost than one person might feel at the meantime, right? So just let me know, and if there's something you're not getting or it's not working, just send me a message in Canvas if you don't want to speak up necessarily in class and stuff. And just know that the people that do speak up, there's a lot more of you who I've also heard back. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't get that either, or I didn't know how that was working, or you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, you're quite welcome. Yeah. So that's it for our class at the moment. I'll take a few questions and things if people have them, and then yeah, I'll do my usual run away to East County to go force people to hit notes on a piano.
So just to go full circle, Thad, did you check the submit detail? Were you able to see both the SoundCloud and the zip?
Yes. Yeah, it'll show up when you submit, your assignment should show up as an attachment.
Oh, okay.
And it should show up on your side, whether or not it's been submitted correctly. And then, you know, like Tim Poland said, if you want to message him, I mean, he's been super helpful to me. And also, is it Mr. Anderson? No, Mr.
Goodman.
Mr. Goodman.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Goodman is phenomenal. If you have questions, ask Mr. Goodman. He's amazing. He really, really is. And I wouldn't be afraid to ask. He's so great. So he's been a phenomenal help to me. And we've scheduled Zoom meetings. So if anybody's having issues or technical issues or having questions, Mr. Goodman is phenomenal. He's really wonderful, and he really knows what he's doing.
Appreciate that, Thad. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm gonna play around with that some more. And I for sure was leaning on Tim yesterday at like 10 at night. He's like, go to bed.
So, sometimes I'm not guaranteed. Sometimes I'm going to be available. Sometimes not. It just depends on what's happening. But if I can be, you know, I'll happy to help you out, especially if it's just, you know, sometimes it's just a quick thing that, if you know, rather than having to, you know, wait a bunch of time, it can help out. So yeah, I would definitely say Alan Goodman, he, like I may have mentioned before, he's taking like every class at Mesa and half the classes at City College related to audio. He's now doing an online master's in music business. But he has a lot of practical knowledge, and his also, since he deals with a lot of students on different systems, a lot of practical knowledge related to specific problems and miseries and issues on various OSs. He works on Windows too, so he'll have knowledge there. So again, he can do all that for you, but he also can be a good guide too, just to ask him about, you know, ask him about teachers and classes and stuff too, if you want to know things to take next semester. Since he's taken most of them and dealt with a lot of the faculty, he can give you kind of like a in-betweenish viewpoint, right? You can always ask teachers, you know, and including me and whoever else, what classes to take and what teachers to take from, and obviously you're going to talk to other students probably about that too. But it's worth talking to someone like Alan. He's neither directly a teacher, I mean, he basically functions at that, or a student really. He's played both roles, and he can give you a very moderate and honest, non-extreme opinion that will be useful, right? give you the right information without a whole lot of coding and waiting on it. So I recommend that you talk to him for that as well too. And of course, talk to each other. If you guys have taken other classes too and had positive or negative experiences, and be useful resources to each other so that you can see which places might be good for you to go next navigate. And sometimes too, take into account if someone has an extreme opinion about this teacher, that teacher, or the student, or whatever, be slightly wary, right? If you see those 1-star reviews, search for the 3-star review and see what they have to say. Oftentimes that's somewhere a bit more moderate. And there's cases where students just hate teachers because they get an F, or they're just personality mismatches, right? We're all people, so we're not going to all match up. So talk to Alan about those things too. It'll make your whole experience, I think, better, right? You can cheat on us too and use City College too, even Miramar if you want, right?
It's all SDCU.
It is. But I've taught in both the Grossmont College and Cuyamaca district, as well as this one. I used to teach at Miramar and stuff as well. And everyone's going to have some pluses and minuses. So I'm happy to try to talk as forthright about that as possible. I'll have my own biases, but I'll try to speak very clearly about differences and how they might benefit you, rather than personal gripes or feelings there. And Alan will definitely give you the same type of perspective. You go, well, actually, I'd recommend City College for this, but this one's pretty good here, and so on and so forth, right? So I would personally, for instance, recommend Mesa College for music theory and ear training in general. Honestly, for the ear training, I'd have to get back to you on that though, as to whether I think you should try to take it online or not, because it's going to be a different experience. And yeah, but if you do have those questions, shoot away as well. Yeah, probably Trevor probably can also give you guys some information about UCSD specific things in certain areas, right? And I can do some about that for SDSU too. Yeah. Anyway, if you have any questions,
Chat.
Was that?
Use the chat. The chat is awesome. Chat. The what's it called? Presto chat?
Oh, Pronto.
Pronto chat. Yeah, that works great.
Yeah.
There's a fun thread in there right now.
Oh yeah. Let's check it out. Yeah, I like it. I think it's great. Yeah, I'm a fan of it. Trevor and I were talking in there earlier. Why is it not showing up? Maybe I have to get out of this quiz mode. Oh, there it is. Pop in this thing. Yeah, these are great. And okay. Oh yeah, I don't know if this is for everyone to see or not, but we're talking about guitars and software VST guitars and things like that. And yeah, there's lots of cool stuff. So anything, yeah, if you just want to geek out about music stuff, or if you just have questions in class, whatever, you can go to that Pronto thing. It's the bottom of here. Click on that, pops up this chat thing, and you can just talk about whatever other people. You can also put videos and links and emojis and all that kind of crap. So it makes it kind of fun and easier to share ideas, right? I appreciate Trevor pointing that out too, because especially in a creative class, like you're here because hopefully you care about recording and making music and stuff, rather than maybe a class that you're forced to take. So what that means is you have a bunch of motivated individuals around you who are going to be interesting, motivated, and interested in doing stuff, right? And that's cool. You just self-selected lots of awesome people in San Diego or elsewhere, all gathered in the same spot. And so I recommend highly that when you engage with Pronto or even other things, get to know each other, become friends and stuff outside of the class and stuff if it suits you, because you'll find that you really are able to build a lot more environment of peers who are interested in making art. And many times they can help you out with the questions too. If you've forgotten something in class, you can talk about that or whatever. So I highly encourage that in any of your creative classes to see that part of your textbook, part of the equivalent of your learning is definitely the other students in the class, other peers in here. It'll be a valuable resource. Yeah.
Yeah, networking is the key in life in general. I mean, you can't really do much without a team.
Yeah, there is no I in Tim, as they say.
Yeah, straight.
That is straight. Yeah.
You got to end on that one.
Yeah, right.
Drop the mic.
Do not drop the mic, okay? This is
not literally.
SM57. Oh yeah, I've seen that the mini fights have broken out at those things. Yeah, we'll end on that. We'll end on that on that note then. And if you guys do have anything more you need, let me know. I'll see you in the chat and the rest of it.
Later.
Later.
Peace, bros.
Peace out. May peace be with you and also with you.
It also.
What do you think about that HD Pro Tools system?
I don't know. I just took a quick look at it. I don't know.
I'll talk to you about it next time I see you.
Yeah. So let's do that. I'll check it out. And
So
we'll check it and talk because I'm not sure is the answer.
okay.
I'll have to see what I can really do and not. But yeah, but I'm intrigued.